So in the previous session, we have discussed about relevant costing and future incremental cost definition and all that stuff. So let's finish that topic by furthering it and then finishing it off. Okay. So next one, what is the relevant cost for materials? So material, as you can see, they have given you a small graph, which I'll explain you directly. Come on faster. Okay. So when we are talking about materials, we know that if the material has been already purchased to be purchased, if the material is already purchased, then there are possible cases. What are the possible cases, Kar? First of all, need to be in stock. That means regular moving goods, so you have to replace it. If you have already purchased some stock with you and you are using it in a particular project, you need to replace that stock. Okay, that is the first possible case. Second possible case is need not be replaced, but need not be replaced. That means that you have purchased some stock like few weeks or few months ago and you are using that in the current project, but you don't need to replace that stock anymore. You don't need that stock only. So there are two possible cases again in that particular situation. What are the two possible cases? Case one is where it has an alternate use. Alternative usage is there for the stock, or no alternative usage. Okay, so look at this particular chart again once. So point that we are discussing is that in case if a company is having material to be used in a particular project, what is the cost of that material for that particular project? Relevant cost of material for that particular project. That is what we are discussing in this particular topic, right? So what exactly is the relevant cost, sir? It depends upon the alternative usage or the availability of that particular material with the company. So point number one is where situation one is where the company already purchased the material and it is having the material in stock. Point number two, where it has to purchase. So first, if we understand where it has to be purchased, you don't have the stock, you want to use the stock in a project. What is the relevant cost? Purchase price. Common sense, nothing to discuss in that. You don't have the material in stock, you have to purchase it. So whatever price you are paying for that purchase, that is your relevant cost for that particular project. Now second case is where you already purchased the stock and it needs to be in stock. It has to be replaced. Again, it has to be replaced or repurchased. So if it has to be replaced or repurchased, again purchase price of the material only will be the purchase price in market, not the original purchase price. We are talking about purchase price in the market on the date of usage. Whatever date you are using it, on that date, whatever is the market price, that will be the relevant cost, because you have to replace at the current market prices, not historic market prices. Please be very careful. Historic price, historic purchase price is sunk cost. That shall not be considered to be a relevant cost. Current market price only will be considered. Next one, sir, you already have the stock with you and you need to use that stock in the current project, and that stock need not be replaced. That means you don't have any recurring utility for that particular material. So what I'll do, if it is having an alternative usage, opportunity cost will be the relevant cost. Means, sir, I have some material which can be used in some other project. If not used in this project, I can use in some other project. So whatever is the lost benefit or the contribution, that is called as your relevant cost. If there is no alternative usage, scrap value. If I don't use it in any other project, and if I'm not using in this particular project, then what I'll do, I'll sell it off at scrap. So that will be the scrap value will be my relevant cost. Is this chart clear, everybody? Please confirm once. Clear? Okay. Yes. Okay. Good. Chalo. Now moving on. Look, historic cost will always be a sunk cost, and it will never be a relevant cost. And okay, if a material is short in supply, then the only way proposal can be undertaken would be to denying another part of the organization for that particular resource. Relevant cost is the normal material cost plus lost contribution in the other departments. Or what are they trying to tell you? See, if I have to replace the material with something else, but there is no stock available for that particular material, so basically you cannot replace that material. So in that case, normal material cost plus the lost contribution will also be the relevant cost. So same to same steps if we are applying for labor also, same to same steps. Already labor are available in our factory, we need to hire new labor. If you need to hire new labor, then the labor rate, whatever wages you are paying them, that will be the relevant cost. If you already have the labor in your organization, then I cannot say you have it need to be in stock or it need to be replaced. Labor does not have any in stock or replacement as such. What you need to understand is you have abundant availability of labor. Basically, you already have surplus hour paid for. So in that case, what will be the relevant cost? Zero, sir. Yesterday we discussed. Software company employees are there already. You are paying them salary. Working on this project, relevant cost is zero, right? If they are having surplus hours. See this, if there is spare capacity available for labor, relevant cost is zero. Sir, always already you paid them and they are not working. So you ask them to work on this project. You will not pay them anything extra. So relevant cost will be zero for that particular case. And if the labor are already existing at a full capacity, then you need to either hire more labor or you need to take out the labor from your existing departments. If you hire more labor, relevant cost will be the cost of the labor. If you are taking them out of the existing departments, then lost contribution will be the relevant cost, lost contribution plus the extra labor cost if you are paying them any overtime or something like that. See, opportunity cost of diverting the labor will be the lost contribution and extra labor cost if you are paying them anything over and above the regular prices. Okay. Now coming to the assets, sir, non-current assets. Sir, non-current assets, you need to understand where either you are purchasing for this particular project or you are already using the existing machineries. Two possible cases: already using existing machinery on this particular project or purchasing a new machinery for this project alone. So what are the relevant cash flows, sir? If you are purchasing a new machinery, then the purchase price will be the relevant cost. If existing machine is used, then opportunity cost is the lost benefit. Opportunity cost will be the relevant cost. If there is any scrap or disposals on the new assets that are purchased, that is also a relevant cash flow. If we need to take an existing machine from other department and it is not replaced, opportunity cost is the lost contribution that will be coming from that other department. Non-relevant expenditures, sir, please understand, depreciation is not relevant cost because future incremental cash flows, depreciation is not a cash flow, so it will not be a relevant cost. Depreciation will never ever be a relevant cost. It is always irrelevant. Okay. Next, profit and loss on disposal incorporates accumulated depreciation, so that is the reason it is also not relevant. Okay, so please understand, profit or loss, how do we calculate profit or loss? Sale proceeds minus book value. If sale proceeds are more, then it is profit. If sale proceeds are less, then it is loss. Please understand, how do you get book value? Original purchase price, which is sunk cost, minus depreciation, which is irrelevant. So both are irrelevant. Book value itself is irrelevant. Then if the book value is irrelevant, then how can the profits or losses become relevant at all? Only the sale proceeds will be cash flows, so that you have to consider, not the profit or loss. Original purchase price of machinery is always a sunk cost, so we will ignore that. Book value of the machinery is also a sunk cost and non-cash flow, so that is also irrelevant. That's what I just told you. Okay, so this is all discussion relating to what are relevant and what are irrelevant costs with respect to material, labor, and assets. Okay. So if I'm talking about labor, spare capacity, nil. If there is no excess capacity or spares capacity, hiring or using existing labor. If you are hiring, wages. If you are using existing labor, lost contribution plus additional pay, if any, additional wages, if any. Okay, so that's the relevant cost for labor, and relevant cost for assets we just discussed. Any purchase price paid for this particular project, newly acquired machineries, and any disposals that are usually there, lost contribution, opportunity cost. Those three would be the relevant costs. Chalo. Now look at this question. Then once we are done with this question, I guess, okay, this is very easy question. I'm not going to do it. I'll just explain you how to do it. The KRS Limited is considering whether to administer its own purchase ledger or to use an external accounting software. Either use your own system or get an additional outsourcing service. It has obtained the following cost estimates for each of these options. Internal service department cost and volume is given. So if you are doing it internal service within our organization, software purchase will be $320 per annum, hardware will be $750 per annum, accounting stationery will be $500 per annum, part-time accounting clerk you have to pay $6,000 per annum. So annual cost, total annual cost would be 320 plus 750, that is 1070 plus 500, that is 1570 plus 6000, 75, 70. Am I right? 75, 70. 6000 plus 500 plus 750 plus 320. Yeah, 75, 70 is the total internal cost. If I'm going for external services, processing of the invoice and credit notes takes 0.5 per document for 5000 documents. So 5000 into 0.5 M plus, that's 2500. Then processing of check payments is going to take 0.5 per check into 4000 per annum. So 4000 into 0.5 M plus, that's 2000 plus 2500, 4500. And reconciling the supplier account will take 2 per supplier per month. 2 into 12 into 150 suppliers, 150. That is 3600. Total will become 8100. So 75, 70, and this is 8100. So internally doing it is much better than going for external services. Done. Basic, simple questions these are. You don't need subject knowledge to do these kind of questions. Okay, look at this. Make or buy with a limiting factor. Already we know this, when there is limiting factors, what will we do? We'll first identify the contribution per unit of limited resource, right? How do you calculate that? Sales minus variable cost will give me contribution divided by number of units of limited resource consumed in that particular project or for that particular product is the contribution per unit of limited resource. So then what we'll do, we will rank them accordingly. Sir, whatever is first giving you the best contribution per limited hour, you produce that within your factory. Whatever is giving you the last, if the resources are insufficient, then go for external purchase. Common sense, nothing out of that. So I'm not going to do this much. This is very self-explanatory. I'm not going to do this particular question. But there is fixed overhead, so I'm going to ignore this. So I'll take only the sales price. Did they give me the sales price? They did not give me the sales price. Purchase price from outside supplier. Okay, so that can be considered as the sales price. If you're buying from outside, what is the price you pay? That only will be your sales price also, technically speaking. Machine hours per unit is given. Manufacturing requirements show a need of 1500 units of each of the component per week. Maximum number for general purpose machinery hours available are 24,000. So whatever is the surplus leftover or else deficit, that we will purchase from outside. So this includes a fixed overhead. So please understand, fixed overheads needs to be added back. Variable cost, only these three costs should be considered. Okay. So 57 minus 55 plus 10. 55 minus 46 plus 6, or else 57 minus 12 minus 25 minus 8. Whatever you are doing, it's the same common sense only. Chalo. Moving on to next one. Make versus buy, other issues that we need to consider. Yesterday while closing the lecture, I have discussed about this one. When you are talking about purchase versus buying within the making within the factory versus purchasing from outside, other factors you need to consider. How well can you reliable on the other supplier, sir? Will he be able to deliver you required stock at required price on required time by maintaining the same quality? You have to consider all these factors. See, will he be able to deliver required quantity, required quality, on time delivery? Will he be maintaining the same price or will he fluctuate the prices a lot? So you need to consider all these factors before you buy from an outside party. Similarly, specialist skills. Sir, what you possess versus what an external outsourcing agent possesses are completely different. See, for example, if I'm talking about filing an income tax return or a GST return, yes, nowadays what is happening is people are filing their own returns. That's fine, sir. You will save some cost. How much will you save? 500 bucks, 1000 bucks, 2000 bucks. Okay. What happens if you just get an income tax notice? What happens? You filed your income tax return wrong and people serve you a notice. Then you will have to go wandering around the income tax department for 5-10 days. Now gone now, you will lose your important time on that particular thing. Again, you will have to face the headache of that nonsense. So technically what is happening is sometimes, even though it is cost benefit for us to do the product or project or service ourselves, an external party might have specialist knowledge and specialist skill set on that. So it might be better to go outside even if that costs a little bit more than what it's costing us. Okay, that's what Apple does with their screens, with their displays. You know, even though Apple can produce their own displays, they never do that. They purchase their displays from Samsung. Sir, why? Because Samsung has the best display technology out there in the entire market. No company's displays can beat Samsung hands down. Any day, any given day, Samsung. I'm not talking about the Dabba A phones and M series and A series. I'm talking about the S series, the premium S series and the Note series. I don't think any other mobile can beat the display quality of Samsung when it comes to S series and Note series. Note series to ultimate, next level only. Chalo. Next, moving further. The resource which we are, acquiring from outside, that may have alternative resource. So if I acquire something from outside, if I'm buying from outside, my existing resources will become free and I can work on some other project as well. My labor are there, sir. Instead of asking the labor to produce something, if I'm buying that something from outside, my labor will become free. I can use them in some other projects. And if I'm purchasing from outside, thereby what can happen, sir? Sometimes your labor becomes unrequired. I cannot say useless. I don't want to say useless, but you're already purchasing the raw material from outside. I mean, you're purchasing the finished product from outside. You're not doing manufacturing at all. So what is the point of having labor when they are not working on the manufacturing process? You might need to fire them. So social implications will be there now. You know, when companies are usually firing, it becomes a very big news in the market. They say that Mahindra and Mahindra is firing 5,000 employees. It becomes a negative social impact for your company. That's another. And legal also will be there. If you are firing some of the employees, you have to pay them some contractual whatever payments have been promised to them, retrenchment compensations, we call them in the technical world. So those compensations you have to pay them. Confidentiality breach will be there if you are acquiring from outside. So now Samsung knows what displays Apple are using and what is the cost per display unit for Apple. Samsung already knows certain information about Apple, their internal information. That's confidentiality breach. Customer reaction. We never know how the customer will react if we are purchasing from outside rather than producing that in-house. Sometimes they feel that, okay, this guy is not giving me importance. That is why he's buying my product from outside rather than doing it himself. That problem will be there. And outsourcing pros and cons. When you outsource it to somebody else, when you buy it from outside, advantages, you get better flexibility. You can just give them the configurations and they'll do that for you. Investment will not be there, sir. Why? Because you purchase, you pay them the price. You don't invest in machinery. All that capital equipment won't be there. Cash flows will be slightly improved because, as I just said, you don't invest huge capital, you just buy it. So cash flows will be improved. You can concentrate on more core competencies of your organization rather than focusing on the production activities. And it gives you more technologies without making the investment, because your supplier will make the investment, you don't make those investments. Disadvantages: you may choose a wrong supplier and you will lose visibility and control over the process because they'll do the processing. And lead times may increase. Sir, what is lead time? Buffer time. If you're producing in house, you can finish it in 2 days, but if you're acquiring from outside, they'll say that, sir, first you order, then we'll produce in 2 days, we'll deliver in another 2 days, so it's going to take 5 days. So additional buffer time will be there, lead time will increase. Is this clear? Guys, confirm in the chat section, is everything clear till now? Yes? Okay. What about others? Others also confirm. Actually, today is Monday. Okay. I'm not getting the difference between Sundays, Mondays, and anything else. All the days seem the same to me. Okay. Chalo, let's move further. Shutdown decisions, sir. When we are talking about shutdown decisions, what do we need to consider? Point number one, if you are shutting down a particular project, whatever contributions you are generating till date from that particular, what do you call it, branch or unit, they'll be gone, right? So that is an additional loss for you. So giving whatever contribution we are generating from that unit, that will be a relevant loss for you, relevant cost for you. Whatever fixed cost needs to be paid. Sometimes if you're shutting down, you have to pay the customers something, you have to pay the employees some amounts, all that stuff, that is also a relevant cost. Then any reorganizational cost, like using those existing resources somewhere else, all those costs also you have to consider. Additional contribution from alternative use of the resources released. Sir, what does that mean? You know, when you shut down a project, the resources from that project are released, like raw material or labor or variable overheads or rental space or furniture, computer equipment, etc., etc. They'll all be released. Now you can use them in some other projects. So that's the relevant benefit for you, opportunity benefit for you. That also you have to consider. Okay, all that stuff is there. That is your quantifiable cost or benefit of the closure. Okay, if benefits are more, then you may go ahead and close that. If the costs are more, then ignore that, don't do that. Non-quantifiable costs and benefits, blah 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 blah. I'm not going to talk about these things. Okay, so look at this particular question. This is related to shutdown. So what, I'll just go through the question, I'm not going to solve it for you. Management of Fiona company is considering the closure of one of its operational department 3, and the financial accountant has submitted the following report. 1, 2, 3 total are there. Sales units 5,000, 6,000, 2,000 units. Sales value 150, 240, 24. Direct material, direct labor, production overheads are there. Gross profit is given 4453, 3,692. We are talking about department 3. Department 3 we want to shut down, and it is giving 3,692, and expenses are 6,155, and there is a loss of 2,463. Okay, since this project is running, product department is running in losses, department 3 they want to shut that down because it is in losses. Now, what are they telling you? Production overheads of 15,000 has been apportioned to 3 departments on the basis of unit sale volume. Okay, production overheads are there 15,000. That 15,000, this production overhead 15,000 is allocated on the basis of number of units 5,000, 6,000, and 2,000. Okay, these are apportioned costs. Then expenses are head office overheads, again apportioned to the departments on sales volume. Sir, look at this. These expenses 40,000, they don't relate to these individual departments. These are head office expenses. They are apportioned on the basis of the number of units, that is 5,000, 6,000, and 2,000. They have apportioned these costs 40,000. So apportioned costs are not relevant costs. So this 6,155 is not really a cost of this department. If this department is not there, if you shut down this department, then this 40,000 will be split as 5,000 and 6,000. Basically 5:6 ratio, they'll split it between the two departments. You won't have a savings of 6,155 if you shut that project down. So that's not a relevant benefit as such. As a management accountant, you further ascertain that on a cost driver basis, 50% of the production overheads can be directly traced to departments, so could be allocated on the basis of 2:2:1. So this 15,000 is there now. They are telling you that technically you can allocate them on the basis of 2:2:1 to the 3 departments. Only half of that, 40,000, sorry, no, 15,000, half is 7,500. That 7,500 should be 2:2:1. And similarly, 60% of the expenses can be allocated 3:3:2, with the remainder not being possible to allocate. Okay. 80% of the so-called direct labor is fixed and cannot be readily allocated. Remaining 20% is variable and can be better allocated on the basis of the sales volume. So they're just telling you what are the total costs, out of them what is fixed and what is variable, what can be changed and what cannot be changed. Restate the financial position in terms of the contribution made by each department, and based on these figures make a clear recommendation. So they're asking you, they're telling you out of this direct labor, how much? 80% is fixed. So 80% take it down below the contribution, 20% only keep above the contribution. So based on contribution, we will determine, right? So that's what they're trying to tell you, and discuss any other factors that may consider before you take the final decision. So this profit, this is a loss figure. So technically speaking, I guess once you do all these adjustments, now, then your loss will convert into profit. That's how usually the questions are tested. Okay, maybe I'm not saying exactly, but maybe a chance is there that this will become profitable department, and therefore we should not shut it down. Possible. Okay. Next, one-off contracts. We already know, we already discussed regarding one-off contracts. Look at this, Ma. This is a question that I want you to understand at depth. Very important question. This one question covers the entire chapter actually. And after this, what do we have? Questions. Then further processing or not to process. That's just one topic. And what's this? That's it. Further processing related one or two questions if we solve, then we'll be done with this chapter. We have 7 minutes, so let's deal with this question in this 7 minutes. I'm not going to solve the question, I'll just discuss it very quickly. See, Mr. Smith has been asked to quote a price for a special contract. He has already prepared his tender, but he asked you to review it for him. He has pointed out that he wants to quote the minimum price, as he believes this will lead to more lucrative work in the future. They're asking you what is the minimum agreeable price. Okay, he's tendering that material 2,000 kgs at $10 per kg, 1,000 kgs at 15, 500 kgs at 40, 50 liters at 12, 50 liters at 12 per liter. Why is it put in labor? Okay, this has to come down. Labor has to come here. Skilled, semi-skilled and unskilled labor, number of hours at the rate per hour is given. Then fixed overheads are given. Cost of preparing the tender. Oh God, sir, this is useless. These two are useless, Mr. Smith's time, other expenses, minimum profit. These three are useless to be there. Sir, why, sir? Because already he spent time on preparing the tender. So now that is a sunk cost. So we will not consider other expenses. This is also relating to preparing the tender, sunk cost. Minimum profit should not be there, right? Because they want to sell at a minimum price, then why add a profit? If you want to sell at minimum price, you should not add any profit to that. So these three are useless unless they give any other information relating to other expenses. So let me scroll down and check about other expenses. Other expenses include the cost of travel and research time spent by Mr. Smith on the project. Useless, That's irrelevant, right? Okay. Now, let's start with one by one. Very quickly, we have to do it in 5 minutes. Chalo. Material A. 1,000 kgs of the material is in 1,000 kgs of the material is in stock at a cost of $5 per kg. Mr. Smith has no alternative use for this material and intends to sell it for $2 per kg. However, if he sold any, he would have to pay a fixed sum of $300 to deliver the delivery cost, to cover the delivery costs. Current purchase price is $10 per kg. Very good. Let's see about material A. How much material is required? Material A, 2,000 kgs is required at $10 per kg. Okay. Very quickly, if I'm talking about material, we have four material A, B, C, D. A, you need 2,000 kgs. B, you need, okay, I'll go. A, 2,000 at 10. B, 1,000 at 15. C, 500 at 40. And D, 50 at 12. Okay, so this is the requirement of raw material. Now coming to raw material A, they're telling you 1,000 kgs is already in stock. 1,000 kgs is already in stock, and this does not have any alternative usage, so there is no loss to contribution. You can sell it for $2 per kg. So scrap value is equal to 1,000 into 2, $2,000 minus delivery cost is equal to $300. So your net realizable value from that 1,000 kgs, if you are not using in the project, is $1,700. If you don't use that 1,000 kgs in this particular project, you will sell it for $2 per kg, $2,000 you will get. You have to pay $300 delivery. So 1,700 is your net relevant cost of this 1,000 kgs. Remaining 1,000 kgs, what we have to do, sir? We have to purchase from market. So purchase price is equal to how much? $10 per kg. 10,000. $10 into 1,000. So total relevant cost of material A will become 11,700. That is material A relevant cost. How much did he include in this 2,000 kgs into 10? He included 20,000, but actually the relevant cost is only 11,700. Similarly, if I'm talking about B, plenty of material B is there in stock and cost is $18 per kg. Current purchase price is 15 per kg. Material is constantly used by Mr. Smith in his business. Constantly used means to be replaced. To be replaced at market price. So market price is how much? $15 per kg. So 1,000 into 15, that is the relevant cost. He's already included that only. 15,000 is the relevant cost. No adjustment is required. Very good. Material C, total amount of stock is 500 kgs, which was bought for $10,000 some time ago for another one-off contract that never happened. That this 10,000 is a sunk cost. This $18 is a sunk cost. Here $5 is a sunk cost. You already purchased it. Don't consider original purchase price. It's gone, long gone. Don't worry about it. 500 kgs was there in stock, ma. Okay, so we already have 500 kgs in stock. Good, we need 500, we have 500. Mr. Smith is considering selling it for 6,000 in total, or using it as a substitute for other material constantly used in the production. If used in the latter manner, it would save 8,000 of the other material. So common sense, ma. You can either sell for scrap 6,000, or you can use in other project for 8,000. Obviously, you will use in other project for 8,000. So relevant cost is equal to lost contribution of 8,000. Okay, 500 into 40, that is how much? 20,000. Yeah, 20,000, but relevant cost is only 8,000 in this particular case. Then material D, 100 liters is already in stock. We need only 50 liters, ma. We have 100 liters in stock. So only 50 liters we have to consider. And it is dangerous, and if not used in the contract, it will have to be disposed of at a cost of $50 per liter. Wonderful, ma. See, this is a benefit for you. This is not a lost contribution. This is actually a benefit for you. If you don't use in this particular project, if you don't use that material in the project, you will have to pay a cost of how much? $50 per liter. And you are talking about 50 liters. That is how much? 2,500 is a relevant benefit, not cost. Please understand, you have to reduce this 2,500 from the total relevant cost. So material, if I'm talking about material relevant cost, it is 11,700 plus 15,000 plus 8,000 minus 2,500. That is your total relevant material cost. Okay. Then coming to labor, he will hire only when it is required. So whatever is the labor rate that you are paying, that will be your relevant cost. So $25. Semi-skilled has a workforce of 50 semi-skilled who are not fully utilized. They're on an annual contracts and number of spare hours currently available are 1,500. Any hours in excess of this time will have to be paid for a time and a half. So 1.5 times you will pay it. How many hours of labor are required? Semi-skilled. You need 2,000 hours at $15 per hour. But if you see here, already you have 1,500